passionate about family life as I am. Today you'll learn about how a board of advisors can work in your family life, that success is a daily step, and how random acts of kindness can change the world. Prepare to be inspired. Let's go. Our superb man today is a dad of one, and with one on the way. He is a self-confessed introvert, but he's not letting that define him. He is so passionate about family. He and his wife have started I Like Family, a podcast which shares tips and tricks for family and life improvement. Welcome to Rey Brown.
Hey everyone, how are you? Sarah, thank you for having me on your podcast. It's such an honor to be here with you. Hopefully, I can give your audience some great actionable advice.
Oh, I'm certain that you will, Ray. You're just fantastic. So, Ray, what is your greatest joy as a parent?
Okay, there's many joys of being a parent, but I would say the greatest joy that I have is when I pick my daughter up from daycare. When I walk into her classroom, if she's sitting in kind of like the little foyer area, or when she's in her classroom, as soon as she sees me, it's like the world stops. She dropped everything that she's doing, and she just yells out, "Daddy!" and runs up to me and gives me the biggest hug. And I'm sure your daughter does the same thing. I don't know, it makes me feel great, and like it kind of puts everything in perspective. And like her hug is so amazing. Like just even if like she's scared or if she just want to give me a hug, like her hug has power in it. And so that's my greatest joy is just getting a hug from my daughter and then just seeing the excitement when she see me for the first time after not seeing me for a while.
Oh, that's so cool. My youngest, Sophie, I picked her up from creche yesterday, and every time I go to pick her up, she always says, "You're back!" Like it's like I wasn't ever going to pick her up, you know. It's like, "You're back! You remembered me." It's awesome. So, Ray, we have lots of wonderful memories with our own children, but do you have a fond memory of your childhood that you'd like to share with us today?
Okay, so I have a memory, and of course, there's maybe a memory that's better than this one, but this one here it's kind of funny, so I want to tell you this story. All right. The other night, right now I have a cold, so if I sound horrible, it's because our whole house is sick. My wife is sick, my daughter is sick, and I'm sick also. So normally at nighttime before bed, we will read her a bedtime story. But all of us have sore throats, and so my wife and I didn't feel like reading. So we told my daughter that we could watch the movie Brave because we just bought her the movie Brave, and she wanted to watch that movie instead of reading. So we're all three of us are laying in bed watching the movie Brave. I'm really into it because I didn't think it would be such a great movie. My wife is into it. Reagan is into it. Have you seen the movie Brave?
No, I haven't actually.
Okay. All right. It's a great movie. The main character, her name is Merida, and she have warrior tendencies, but her mother wants her to be more of a princess. And so she goes to this witch. I don't want to tell the whole movie for those who haven't seen this. So I'll just give you a brief. So anyway, she goes to the witch to get a spell to change her mom's, I guess, actions towards her mom, trying to make her into a princess and not a warrior. So her mom turns into a bear. And at the end of the movie, her mom is fighting this other bear, and she have to defeat this bear for her to turn back into her mother because she had 2 days from the start of the potion before her being a bear becomes permanent. And so at the end of the movie, we're all into it. The movie builds up, and so the mother is getting defeated. And long story short, the mother ended up defeating the bear, and there's this quilt that Merida, the daughter, had to kind of patch together because with a sword early in the movie she cut it, and that broke the bond between her mother and her. So she covered her mom with a quilt, and she was hugging her mom. She was crying. She was saying, "Mom, I want you back. Please don't turn into a bear." And my daughter, she was really into it. Out of nowhere, well, the way the movie built up, it made it seem like her mother would stay a bear and not turn back into her mother. So my daughter just burst into tears. Like we're all into the movie. She just burst into tears and started crying. Well, then my wife looked at her and said, "Baby, why are you crying?" And she just pointed at the TV because my daughter was into it. And at 3 years old, she was able to understand that the girl's mom would never come back and be the same mom that she had before. Well, then my wife started crying because Reagan was crying. And then looking at them, like I started to tear up. I'm not gonna lie, I started to tear up.
Oh.
I didn't actually, cry, but I started to tear up, and it took me back to a childhood memory to where it was me, my younger brother, and my mom. We was watching a movie, laying in her bed, titled Mac and Me. It's about an alien. It's kind of like an ET movie, and Mac, I was maybe 8 and my brother was 4. Mac was in this shopping cart and he was going down this cliff, I think in California. And the movie made it seem like he was going to go down this cliff and get hit by a car or like go into a river or something. And my brother, I was 8, he was 4, he just started crying. And so me being his older brother, like I started laughing at him because he was crying and picking with him because he was crying for the movie and my mom was right there. It was like a warm moment. And it was kind of like deja vu the other night when I was laying with my family. And it's like my father was there. My mom and father got a divorce when I was in the 4th grade. So I don't remember if he was at work or maybe they went together at that point. But it kind of gave me a flashback moment the other night with my family as when I was a child, and it's like I could see it from Reagan's point of view, but now I see myself as a father, being a man of my household and having a family. So it was just a warm moment. And I don't want to be too long-winded on this question, on this answer, but that's one of the things that I love about family is that I can do things with my family and I can be a person with my family that I can't be in the world. If I'm around my friends and I told them I started crying while watching a cartoon Brave, they would look at me crazy. So I can't be the same person I am with my family. My family is my safe haven to where I don't have to be masculine. I don't have to be a man with them. I can just be the person I really am. I can be as soft as I want to be with my wife and daughter and just enjoy and have a family. So that's a warm memory that I have, us crying through movies. It's like I saw it through the lens of a child, and I got to see it through the lens of being a father and having my own family. And it was a great moment.
I love it. Creating warm memories together is fantastic. So we
Yes.
often hold on to those warm memories when we go through tough times, but also we hold on to quotes. Do you have a quote that's motivated and inspired you?
I do, and this is the quote that I have on my website. There are plenty great family quotes, but this one kind of stuck out to me. And the quote that I have is by Mother Teresa. And in this quote, she says, "If you want to promote world peace, go home and love your family." And I think that's a marvelous quote.
I love that quote. It's definitely one of my favorites as well. So has there been a time where this has helped you in an event in your life?
Yes, I'm not a guy that watch the news a lot just because I think 85% of the things that's on the news is negative and it strikes fear in people. And I'm not a person that want to live my life in fear, scared to go to the movies because somebody may come in there and start shooting, or I don't want to be afraid to send my daughter to school in fear that somebody may come in there and shoot it up. So I don't watch the news a lot, but it's like the few times I do watch the news, or like if I have maybe CNN or NBC in my RSS feeder. And so I'm just going through in the morning, just checking all of the headlines. And anytime I hear about a murder, anytime I hear about a robbery or something like that, it kind of just it reminds me that just family is so important, because if this person that committed this murder, that killed somebody, who knows if their parents really loved them and I guess taught them the right way, they could have prevented that. And because like most of the tragedies you hear about, the person that committed the tragedy, it kind of dates back to their childhood. They have a broken home. I don't know, they maybe was cast out of their family or something like that. So I think like, when people say it starts at home, it really does start at home. And the way we can prevent like a lot of tragedies and maybe murders or just unnecessary crimes is by loving our families.
Absolutely. I can tell your passion for family coming through, which leads me to the next question. So, what
Okay.
inspired you to start I Like Family?
Well, when my wife and I has been married for 3 years, so I guess I'm considered a newlywed. I don't like a newlywed because you can be married for a year and still go through everything that somebody married for 20 years will go through. But most of the couples I talk to say, "Oh, we all still young. Y'all only been married 3 years." But my wife and I, our daughter is 3 years old, and we've been married for 3 years. So do the math. We had Reagan was born 2 months after we got married. And so it's like we was thrown, well, not thrown into the marriage, but we got married, and 2 months later we have a child. So most people say you wait for about 2 years after you're married just to work everything out and get adjusted to married life and then have a child. Well, we went from like 0 to 100 in less than 3 seconds. We got married, then we had Reagan. So my wife and I, what we did once we got married is we wrote down every married couple that we know of. We wrote down every parent that we know and every divorcee that we know, and we had a list. We each went to maybe about half of the people that's on the list, and we talked to them about like a married couple. We say, okay, you've been married for 23 years. What's the number one thing that have kept y'all together through the bad times and the good times? And we wrote all of this stuff down. And even divorcees, we went and we kind of asked them the tough questions that nobody likes to ask. We asked them, what could you have done better to prevent a divorce? And normally they would say, well, I've done everything I was supposed to do. It was more on them than it was on me. But one time when I was talking to a pastor, actually he was on this list and I was talking to him, and he told me something that really stuck with me. He said, Ray, what percentage of your marriage are you responsible for? And like any wise guy, I said 50%, 50% for me, 50% for my wife. And he said, no. He said, at your job, do you give 50% at your job? And I said, no, I give 100, 110. He said, at anything in life, would you just give it 50%? And I said, no. He said, okay, so then why don't you give your marriage 50%? He said, you are 100% responsible for any and everything that happens in your marriage, and for you being a parent, you're 100% responsible, and your wife is 100% responsible. If y'all each give 50%, you're only giving half of what you're capable of giving. Give 100%. And so the things like that, just I think those are like gems that will stick with me forever, and it has carried my wife and I through all of our turbulent times. And so and I listen to podcasts a lot because I'm always in my car, and one day it just dawned on me, you know what? Like this has really helped us, and I see so many families that's falling apart just because they don't have that person that they can go to and talk to. So I want to put it in a podcast form because some people are afraid to admit, hey, this is what I'm going through. Um, my wife and I are having these problems. They don't want to talk to anybody about that. But if you have somebody on their podcast that's saying, hey, I went through this problem. This is what happened. This is how I solved it. That person listening to it can be like, okay. And then it'll help them out along the way. So that's why I wanted to start the I Like Family podcast.
I love it. That's such a great idea. So, Ray, what would you consider to be your greatest success and why?
Well, I have a quote that's tied to my feelings about success. It's by Roy Vaden, and it's in the book Take the Stairs. Excuse me. I haven't actually read this book, but some people I know read the book, and I heard Dave Ramsey mention this quote. And the quote is, success isn't owned, it is rented, and the rent is due daily, which means to me what it means is success isn't a destination, it's a journey that daily you're paying your rent towards owning success. And for that, my greatest success is for me loving my wife, because that's something that I do daily and that's something I continue to do. And another way that I feel like I'm a great success is because I am being a great example for our daughter. She see the relationship that me and her mom have, and that's setting the example for her for when she get older, she can think back and say, you know what, from as far back as I can remember, my father was there, my father talked to me, my father loved me, my father opened the door for my mother, my father set the standard for each and every man that comes into my life, each and every person, even when she's at work, with the way, hopefully she'll work for herself and she won't have to answer to anybody else. But in school and anything, to where I would set the standard for her and say, you know what, this is the way my father treat me, and I demand the same thing of you. Treat me with respect, honor me, and don't basically degrade me or do anything disrespectful towards me. Because my father set the standard and said, hey, my name is Rey Brown, I'm worth something, and this is how I'll be treated. So that's my greatest success. It's just every day continuing to be a great example for my daughter and to also love my wife.
It's awesome. So, do you have a support system that motivates you on a daily basis? Perhaps a mentor or Clearly, your wife is probably a real inspiration for you as well.
Yes, that's a fantastic question, and I thought about it, and I don't have a mentor per se. I had a mentor, but I don't know. I used to have a mentor. I would love to have like a direct mentor, but what I do have, what I put in place, and I got this from the book, "The Power of Who" by Bob Bodine. He talked about having your personal board of advisors. And so I basically have a personal board of advisors to where, let's say I'm going through something, I don't know, financial. Then there's a guy that I know that have had success financially that I can go to him and ask him this question. Now he may not know anything about parenting, but he knows about business and finances. So I may go to him and say, "Hey, this is what I'm faced with. I know you went through something like this. Can you give me some advice?" And then if I'm going through something parenting wise, I can go to the parent who I want to be like that I have. It's a guy that goes to my church named Mr. McCowan, and he's a really great guy. And I can go to him. He have three boys. I can go to him and say, "Hey, um, did you go through this as you was raising your children? This is what I'm faced with Reagan. What advice do you have for me?" So it's like my personal board of advisors I have to where it's like seven people that's where I want to be in each area of my life. And so I go to them for any questions or any concerns that I have. And so that's a support group. And then my mother is there for me. My wife is there for me. And so I have a pretty great support group.
That sounds fantastic. I love the idea of this board of advisors. That sounds really great.
Yes.
So, so Ray, I've seen on Instagram photos of yours that you go biking together with your family. How
I do.
important is that for you to go do something outdoors together as a family?
Well, I'm an outdoors person, and it's kind of hard because I live in Dallas, and Dallas, Texas, and while there is like kind of forest area, but it's not like my ideal place would be maybe living in like Colorado or living in Oregon, just living somewhere where there's like a bunch of bike trails because that's where I feel my closest to God is through riding my bike. Whenever I'm stressed about something or whenever I can't, like I need an answer to something, I would take a break and go ride my bike. I will go to like a bike trail, in a forest area and like it's green all around me. There's trees. The trees are giving off oxygen. Like I just feel like in nature, that's when I'm closest to God. It's just a feeling that I get in no other place. And so how that relates to my family. My wife doesn't like to go on trails that much. She would rather be on pavement. But like it's just a feeling. When I'm on my bike, I have my daughter on the back, and then my wife is right there, and we're riding somewhere. It's just a great feeling. It's kind of like a bonding moment. It gets us out of the house. We're not necessarily at the park. We're doing something that we all enjoy, and we can. I don't. Sometimes we'll even like ride our bike to go get dinner or something. Like I love biking, and I guess I'm lessening my carbon footprint on the world by biking instead of driving. Oh, and exercise. I'm real big on exercising and being healthy, and so I kind of kill like four or five birds with one stone.
It sounds fantastic and a great idea for people to get on board with as well.
Mhm.
So, Ray, we've come to our wow round. This is where I'm going to ask you some quick questions and you're going to come back with some amazing answers. Are you ready to inspire?
I am. Hopefully, I can.
Woo! So, Ray, what is your superpower?
I would say my superpower is love and prayer. If you think about, because like when I got this question from you, I was like, I don't know I don't have any superpowers. I'm just a regular guy. But then I thought about it. I was like, okay, so what is the purpose of superpowers? Superpowers is something extra, some extra ability you have to defeat the things that you couldn't normally defeat just being your regular self. And so I think for me, definitely love and prayer. I think love conquers all. And love will soften the hardest person, the angriest person in the world. Love will soften that person. And also prayer for the things that my human self that I can't overcome or I can't defeat. Definitely, I go to my knees and I pray. So that's my superpower right there.
That's fantastic. So, when did you first visualize yourself starting I Like Family?
I was in the shower. So there's two places that my best ideas come to me. Is when I'm riding my bike and also when I'm in the shower. Like you can ask my wife. Sometimes I take like 5 showers a day, and it's crazy because my scalp is like so dry, my skin is dry, just because I shower like so much. I don't know, it's crazy, but that's when, especially during the winter when it's cold, I'll go take a warm shower, and it just like eases my mind, eases my muscles, and I think I can think through the clutter, and I don't know, it just, and maybe it's the steam in there kind of fills me up and give me ideas that I normally wouldn't have. But so that's when I first visualized myself doing it. And how it came about is my wife and I, we visited this church. It's called Trinity Dallas. And it was our first time there. We just happened to go to this church and not go to our church because the night before, I think we stayed up late and we kind of slept in. And so we was like, you know what, let's go to Trinity. And the reason why we chose Trinity is because it had like a really cool contemporary sign. The font on their sign was like really nice. It was contemporary, so we wanted to give this church a try. Well, at the end of the service, this lady that was sitting on the front row, she stands up. Obviously, I know that she knows the pastor, but I don't know how because it was our first time there. The pastor was telling us do one thing nice for somebody by the end, before the end of the day. This was on a Sunday morning, and so this lady at the end of church stands up, asks the pastor, "Can she have the mic for a minute?" And she turns around and points at my wife and I and say, "You guys have something inside of you that God is going to get out. I don't want you to worry about how you're going to do it or where you're going to do it. Just do it. You guys have something great that God has blessed you with." And at that point in time, like the lady and I, we had never made eye contact. So it's like it had to have been straight from God because she just turned on and pointed right at us and told us this. Well, at this time, my wife and I knew nothing about I Like Family. We didn't know that we would do this. And so it was kind of wrecking my brain because I was like, okay, God, so what do you have inside of us that we should get out? And then while I was in the shower one day, it came to me like, you know what? I can start a podcast. Although I'm an introvert, or I say I'm an introvert, which I'm not going to say that because it's just a mental tag that I'm putting on myself. But although like I don't like speaking that much in public and everything, I was like, God, just use me however you want to. If you want me to talk about family and be vulnerable and talk about the things that I failed at in the past and the things that my wife and I had to work through and give people kind of a platform to be able to grow as a family and love their family and love their marriage better, then just do that. And when I was in the shower, that's when it came to me.
Oh, it's really empowering, isn't it? That's fantastic.
Yes, I know.
So what are 3 qualities that you believe you have that have helped you be a success?
Well, I'm not a success yet. I'm working towards being successful. I would say number one is discipline. Now, these 3 things that I'm going to give you, I would say I'm maybe about 60 to 70% to where I would like to be. So my goals, I'm working on my goals for 2014, and excuse me, and these are the 3 things that I will not part from, the 3 things that have to become who I am for me to work towards what I think success will be. And the first thing is discipline. I must have discipline to do the things that I don't want to do when I don't want to do them. It could be something as simple as doing the dishes. Like after my wife cook, if she cook, I will do the dishes, and so, or sometime when I cook, even I do the dishes. And so after we have a great meal, we want to go maybe read a book or play some games. The dishes are stacked in the sink. And that's one of those moments that doing the dishes is something I don't want to do. Well, I need to have the discipline to do the things I don't want to do when I don't want to do them because that's when they need to be done. So discipline is number one. And especially with me wanting to do my podcast, I would like to have a 7-day-a-week podcast. I think in the beginning, I'm going to start off with maybe Monday through Friday, and then I'll work my way up to 7 days. But I need to have the discipline to do everything that comes along with having a blog and a podcast. And the second thing is integrity. I must have integrity, especially since I'm talking about family and I'm talking about marriage. I have to work extra hard on my marriage because there will be a spotlight that's placed on us since I'm this guy that's talking about what you have to do in marriage. I don't want to be like a marriage counselor or somebody that talk about all the things you need to do in marriage and then they end up like getting a divorce or something like that. Like I want to be a guy of high integrity. I want people to be able to trust me and know when I say something, it's because I've actually done it or I know that it will work. And I'm not telling somebody to do something that I would never do, or I'm not putting on this facade with like you or anybody else saying, hey, I'm this great dad that's striving to be a dad, that's striving to be a great husband. And then I'm going out and I'm cheating on my wife, or behind closed doors, I'm talking to her abusively or doing something like that. So I need integrity to really not only show other fathers how to live, but for people to be able to trust me. And some people trust me with their deep and darkest secrets when it comes to divorce, when it comes to marriage and parents. And they need to be able to trust me not to go out and I can probably talk about it, but not put their name to it. or not go behind closed doors and laugh and say, haha, this person's going through this. I have to be a man of integrity. And the very last thing is action. Like I know, and like I hate this tag, but it's all my fault. Like I'm known or amongst my friends as the guy with really great ideas, but I only have ideas. Like I don't take the next step and make it become action. Like, and so that's one of my main goals for next year is every idea that I have, not only be about it, but not only talk about it, but be about it. Actually go through and follow up action wise on all of the ideas that I have. So the podcast is something that I want to put to the forefront, and I want to continue to grow at that, and I want to do it. I want to actually do it and not just let it be something that I talk about. And every other thing with I Like Family, I want to actually do it and not just talk about it.
That's fantastic. And I think people listening will be really encouraged that, you've got some things that you're aiming for, because I think we all are, we have these qualities, but we just want to take it that next level and do that.
Yes.
So what would you like to be remembered for, Ray?
When it's all said and done, I would like to be remembered as a man that loved his family, that loved his wife, and that loved his family. One thing, I was at Catalyst Dallas, which is a conference that, and I just found out about it like 2 weeks or like a week prior to the conference, but it's basically a ministry conference that's it's catered towards young people. And they have prominent speakers come in and talk about leadership in the church and youth groups and things like that in the church. And Andy Stanley, I have it written down. I have right here, this is my book. Now, as much technology as I have, I still write things down. And so,
Awesome.
like, I have this book, yeah, of nothing but things that I wrote down. And I remember when I was at the conference, I don't know if you can see this, but Andy Stanley said something that is really key that has stuck with me. He said, "My greatest contribution to the world is not something I do, but who I raise." And so I thought about that, and at first it was confusing to me, and so I asked God to kind of give me clarity on it. And what I came up with is that with me raising my daughter, if I raise my daughter right, or regardless of how I raise her, my greatest contribution to the world would be not what I do, but who I raise. So let's say I raise her, and when she's older, she influenced like 1 million people in the world. Now that can go both ways. That can go negative, or it can go positive. And so it's my job to raise her right because I never know what she's going to be in life. I never know if she's going to grow up and if she's going to be a motivational speaker and do well. I don't know if she's going to, be a missionary and help the poor, do whatever. So it's just my job to raise her the way that God requires me to raise my child because who knows? Like, who knows? I may raise the next Mother Teresa and everything. And so that's my way of contributing to the world is raising her. And then in turn, she will contribute what I raised her with to the world. And then she'll, pay it forward and do the same thing for her children.
Gosh, she's got a great future ahead, I'm sure.
Yeah,
So
I hope so.
what charity are you passionate about?
All right. So I thought about this and I'll just be very honest. Like, there really isn't a charity that I'm just overly passionate about, other than me doing what's required of me, tithing my money to church, and not my money, it's tithing God's money back, to the church, everything. Um, my charity, my goodness comes from me helping people basically hands on to where like there's just something about giving that makes me feel so great. And I've done this before. I've done this plenty of times before. If I'm having a bad day, if I'm feeling down, I would do something nice for somebody and just seeing their eyes light up, just seeing them be happy, like that affects me and that makes me forget about whatever it's I guess tugging my spirit down and it makes me feel a lot better. For instance, one day something at work happened that I wasn't happy with. There was some changes made at work, and I was just feeling down. Like I have those moments to where I kind of like self-doubt myself, and I say, "Well, who are you to do this? You're just a regular guy. You're only 27 years old. People aren't going to respect a 27-year-old." When it comes to talking about like the biggest issues in life, those people listen to the wise people that's been doing it for about 20 or 30 years. And so I do have those moments of self-doubt. And so I was at the grocery store, Sprouts, in Cedar Hill, Texas, one day, and I was going through. It was kind of like a gloomy day outside. I was going through one of my self doubts, so where I was like kind of doubting myself and like, okay, Ray, so what are you gonna do with your life? You're 27 years old. You need to start working towards one thing that you're gonna do well and that you're gonna do for the rest of your life. And I had no clue as to what I'm gonna do, and it was a lady that was behind me in line. It was actually her and her husband, and I paid for their groceries. Well, what I did is I paid with a $100 bill, and I kind of guesstimated in my mind that groceries would cost about $40. And so with the change, I gave the clerk a 50 back out of my change because what I bought was only like $20. And so I gave him a 50, and I just signaled that way, and I said, "Hey, take care of them," because they wasn't paying attention. I said, "Hey, take care of them." And he was like, "No, you don't have to do that." I was like, "No, I want to. Here, take." Like, like try that.
Yeah.
Go, yeah, go, and like you, like the clerk will have the most surprised looks. Like, "No, you don't have to do that." And I'm like, "I know I don't have to do it. I want to." So anyway, so I did it, and I wanted to be subtle because I didn't want them to know it. Well, so I gave him that, and I rushed out of the store. And I sat in my car and I watched for when that couple came out. And like it made me feel so good, the look on their faces. Like their look on their faces was so puzzled. And they was like looking around when they came out of the store, and like nobody was in sight. And so I sat there in my car and watched them drive off. And then I said, you know what, it's things like that to where like if I amount to nothing in life, all that I would do is I would help other people and make them feel better because I don't know what that person had going on in their life. I don't know. I don't know if they was wealthy, or I don't know if they were middle class, high class, upper class, or poor, whatever. I don't know. All I know is I helped that person and I made them feel good and I made them smile. And so that always lifts me up. And so I know that that's a very long answer for the charity, but that's what I do. I mostly try and help people. And just like I live here in downtown Dallas, and there's a lot of homeless people here, and it's cold outside. Hence my cold. You know, it shouldn't be 30 degrees in Dallas. It should be about 80 right now. But I have some jackets because I lost some weight because I stopped eating red meat and I stopped eating bread, and so like I've lost a ton of weight, maybe about 10 or 15 pounds, and I have a bunch of jackets that I can't fit. Well, I would just get on my bicycle and have some jackets like stuffed in my backpack, and I would just like ride downtown and give somebody a jacket or something that I see that's homeless. And stuff like that makes me feel really good, and it makes me feel like I can conquer the world. And so that's what my charity is through, is helping individuals and not necessarily like an organization that goes out and helps somebody widespread, just because it makes me feel good to actually see what I'm doing.
Absolutely. I just love it. I honestly believe that random acts of kindness can actually change the
Yes.
world.
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, what internet resource do you just love right now? For me, it's Skype.
I love Skype. I love
Yeah.
Google Plus and Hangouts. So one thing that I use faithfully is a website called Pixlr. It's pixlr.com, and it's like a photo editing website. I suck at Photoshop. I cannot use Photoshop for anything, but I can go to Pixlr. It's free to use. I think if you use like the basic, and I can add filters to pictures. I can have them go and like auto adjust a picture and fix it. And so I love Pixlr. I do it for all of my photos. I can resize and crop the photo. Yeah, if I take a photo with a nice camera and that photo is, I don't know, like 25 megabytes, but I need to get it down to maybe 5 megabytes, I can go on Pixlr and I can reduce the resolution, but then I can have it to where the picture is still clear. And so
That's
I love Pixlr.
fantastic. Yeah. So, what book would you recommend to our mums and dads?
Um, the book, any father out there that have a daughter, I would definitely recommend the book Strong Father, Strong Daughters by Meg Meeker, and I'll show you how the book look. I Okay, here we go. And so this is the cover right here. It's Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters by Dr. Meg Meeker. And she also have
Awesome.
one for boys. And this is a 30-day challenge for fathers and daughters. I definitely recommend going through this book. There's like plenty of activities and there's great things, checklists for you to do with your daughter that would really help your relationship with your daughter and it'll help you as a father? Because it's kind of hard. I've never been a woman, of course, obviously. So it's kind of hard to relate to a daughter. Like, I don't know kind of emotionally how she feels sometimes, but reading a book like that from Dr. McMaker, it really kind of opens me up into my daughters and into a woman's mind, and it helps me to relate to her better.
It's awesome. So, what are you excited about right now?
I'm excited about my podcast. I'm definitely excited about being on yours. Once again, thank you for having me. I think it's great what you're doing. I've learned a lot from listening to your podcast. And also, my wife is 4 months pregnant. We're expecting our second child, and so I'm very excited about that. And I also know that the stakes are going to be higher because it's one thing to have a three-person family, me, my wife, and our daughter, but now we're having a four-person family. So I kind of feel like I need to grow and get to a certain point, so that way, since there's more of us, I need to be better and I need to be stronger to handle two children now instead of just one, and still be able to be the same husband to my wife that I can, and hopefully I have a boy. My wife is my wife knows what we're having, but she won't tell
Oh,
me. Yes, because instead of a baby shower, she wants to have a gender revealing, and so she and her doctor are the only people that know what we're having. And so it's like
wow.
she's making me live in suspense. Yes. Now she did break down one day and she told me that we're having a girl, which leads me to believe we're having a boy. And because I know the suspense of her not telling me will kill her, so she did tell me. And so I figured she's telling me the opposite of what we're really having. So she told me a girl, and I think we're having a boy. But then again, she know how I think, so she probably told me we're having a girl for me to think we're having a boy, but we're really having a girl. And so it's like she reversed my reverse psychology. Yes, and so
Yeah.
I
So, you still have no idea.
have no
No,
idea, but I'm very excited about that.
sure. So I know you're in the process of this as well, but this question is really to help our mums and dads who are trying to get a work-life balance. Do you have 3 steps that you would encourage people to do to have this work-life balance?
The main thing that I would say is have a schedule. A budget, like a financial budget. A budget is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. That's what a budget is. Well, a schedule is the same exact thing. That's because everybody, no matter who you are, have 168 hours to live every week. So if you schedule your time, that schedule is telling your time where to go and what to do instead of you sitting back and wondering where it went. And so for my wife and I, since both of us have full-time jobs, we also have our daughter and we have each other, we schedule all of our time. We have a routine. We put a routine in place that will enable us to get done the things that we need to get done, for me to get my reading done, for me to work on a podcast, to do everything, but we also schedule time with one another. And so I would say the main thing, just have a schedule and schedule time. It's going to take you a couple of months to really get into your routine, and no 2 days for the most part are the same. But if you have something to go on, I think that will help you tremendously.
Oh, I love that. That's so fantastic. So before we say goodbye, Ray, do you want to share some final inspiring words for our mums and dads, and perhaps how we can get in touch or follow you?
Yeah, sure. The inspiring words that I would like to say are very simple. Just forget about yourself and just completely love others. Love your family. I think in family, if we, now, of course, we have to take out time for ourselves, or else we will go crazy. But I think we just take our own feelings and take ourselves out the equation and just completely give 100% of ourselves to the other person, it will really help our family. Families will stay together, marriages will stay together, and in turn, that person will do the same. Because when I tell some people this, they say, well, if I forget about myself and give 100% of myself to my spouse or to my children, then they're going to forget about me, and I'm going to be that person that does everything for everybody else, and I run myself into the ground. And I say, I honestly feel like that's not the case. If your spouse see that you're giving 100% of yourself to them, in turn, they're going to do the same thing. And while it's great, loving yourself and doing things for yourself, but it takes it to another level when somebody else is doing something for you, or when somebody else is loving you. Because there are people that love themselves, but they still aren't happy because they don't have that person that love them. So kind of forget about yourself, just love that other person, 100, 1000%, and in turn they will love you the same, and that love together will like create a bond that will not be broken. So hopefully that was inspiring. I don't know,
That's
but
wonderful. Yeah, absolutely. So, and how
yeah.
can we get in touch or follow you, Ray?
Well, you can follow me on Twitter. I abandoned Twitter for like so long and just really used Facebook. And that was kind of me in my past introverted ways. I was like, well, nothing I have to say will be interesting to others. But as it turns out, a lot of the things that I have to say are interesting to others. And so I'm really just now getting into Twitter. And so you can follow me at Rey Brown 422. That's ReyBrown 422. April 22nd is my birthday, so Rey Brown was taken, so I had to use 422. That's why I did that. But follow me at Twitter, and hopefully you'll like what I have to say. I definitely would like to follow you because I love learning from others. And my email address is raybrown@ilikefamily.com. And my website is ilikefamily.com. My podcast is of the same name. I would definitely
That's
like to hear
fantastic.
from. Yeah, if anybody out there have any advice for me, or if anybody out there has faced some of the things with like self-doubt or some of the things that I'm faced, I would love to hear from you. That's one thing that I've learned in this whole process of creating my podcast is that it's kind of like a detriment for you to keep your feelings inside, because you never know that person sitting across of you could be going through the same exact thing, or they could have overcame that and they tell you how they overcame it, and like it really helps you. So if anybody have any suggestions for me, if anybody would like to leave any comments, feel free to go and do so. It could be positive or negative, because I learn from negative comments and criticism just as much as I do whenever I win and hear positive comments. So if you have anything to say, feel free, come and say it. And the last thing, keep following Sarah. And I'm doing my finger like I'm a politician. All right. So keep following Sarah and listen to her podcast. Go to her website, support her, support the My Little Geek books. Those books are tremendous. Sarah, I love what you're doing. Thank you for having me on. And, be blessed to you and your family, and best wishes to y'all.
Oh, Ray, I just want to say I just love your passion and about family and openness to growing. But I also want to say thank you so much for being so generous with what you've shared today. You've truly inspired our mums and dads, and we wish you every good thing for your journey ahead. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank y'all for having me.
Loving 100%. I love it. So if you enjoyed listening to Ray, how about you head over to theparentalist.com and send him out a thank you tweet. It's as quick as clicking a button, and I know he'd really appreciate it. So you'd also find a link to his podcast, I Like Family, there. So have a great week, have a great weekend, because you know what? You're really great. See ya.